Hello people, Awesome50 back again, and today I'm going to do just a little review about the film Beetlejuice, the 2024 one. The one that's just come out, which is called Beetlejuice, which a lot of people are calling Beetlejuice 2, which is a sequel to the 1988 movie, obviously called Beetlejuice. And I'm just going to give you my own like opinion, because I've been hearing and seeing a lot of opinions where people are saying this movie is terrible. And even like when I finished watching the movie, I went to watch the movie last night with my girlfriend, and we came out of the movie, and I heard another group of people saying, "God, that was the worst 2 hours of my life." Ugh. And I'm thinking, like, right? Because the thing is, uh, it was a good film. There was actually nothing wrong with the film. Uh, if this film wasn't a Beetlejuice movie, it probably would have been a good film. The thing is with movies like this, and a lot of people hear this all the time, uh, sequels to movies are never as good as the originals. Simply because the idea has already been done. The idea was done back in 1988 with the first Beetlejuice film. So everything after that is going to be subpar, you know? It's not going to be that good. But it still stayed true to the source material. Uh, so yeah, and people need to bear in mind, like, the actors have got older. So, for example, like Michael Keaton, he was a very young man back in 1988 when he played Beetlejuice the first time. Now, obviously, his acting skills are going to be nowhere near as good as they used to be, simply because the guy's like 70. Do you know what I mean? He's a 70-year-old actor. Obviously, he can't move the same as he could back in 1988. And obviously, his voice is gone. I noticed this as soon as the film started, Beetlejuice's first like scene, that I was thinking, well, this isn't really Beetlejuice. So I was thinking, and you could actually visually see Michael Keaton's looking older. No makeup could actually cover that. I mean, this day and age, they could have done what they did in, I think it's called, is the film called The Irishman or something like that, where they used AI generated, like, I don't know what it's called. Actually, I don't know what it's called. But you people know what I mean. It's like where they make the actor look younger. Where obviously Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, that lot, they're making them look 30, where they're really dithering 70-year-olds. Let's be honest. So they could have done that with Michael Keaton, but they didn't. They obviously tried it with the makeup, and it was a darker setting, always. So it made him probably look 10, 15 years older than he did in the original film. But I have to confess, another actress, yeah, an actress who I thought was on fire was Winona Ryder. She's on fire. She hasn't lost it. She's actually, like, gotten better as she's aged. I mean, she really showcased her skills in the Stranger Things series, that she's still got it. And she's actually a really, really fucking good actress. So when I'm saying about age and stuff like that, let's not take it out of context too much. But what I'm saying is Winona Ryder's not 70. Michael Keaton is. So obviously when Michael Keaton was in his 50s, he probably was still on fire as well. Um, so yeah, I thought the film was pretty decent. The only thing I didn't like too much was the sandworms. They just weren't anywhere near as menacing as they used to be honest. They just weren't. Uh, what else? Oh yeah, my girlfriend pointed this out, which I fully agree with, is one of the issues I think the film had was, I mean, I love a plot twist. So I hate watching a film and knowing what's going to happen at the end already. I don't like that. But there's another thing I also don't like, which isn't a plot twist, but it kind of can be in the same bracket, if you will, because I felt as though there were too many storylines. Well, my girlfriend mentioned this, and I was already kind of thinking it. There was too many storylines in the film. So you've got Beetlejuice's wife trying to kill him, and I'm thinking, like, why now is she deciding to do this? You know. So anyway, you got Beetlejuice's ex-wife trying to kill him, and then you've also got another storyline where Winona Ryder's character's daughter is get meets this ghost. He meets a boy, and then all of a sudden it turns out it's a ghost, and then he tries. He becomes a villain basically. He wants to exchange her soul for his soul so he can come back to life. But then all of a sudden he's killed off by Beetlejuice like that. And it's like, what? What the fuck? I thought this guy was going to be like right at the end. You know, like I thought this guy was like a major villain in the film, but he wasn't. And then Beetlejuice's wife was supposed to be a major villain in the movie, but she wasn't. And then at the end of the film, they went back to a good old trusty old school plot where Beetlejuice tries to marry Lydia. I mean, he did that in the first film, but I believe they did that just to try and stay as close to the source material as they could for the first film, which there's nothing wrong with doing that because old school people that watch this movie, obviously I weren't born when the movie was originally made, but I grew up with the movie also, and it's an epic classic, and I still to this day don't mind watching it. It's a fucking good film. It's the first one, and the second one is too. Obviously they've modernized it a lot with new soundtracks and stuff like that. They tried to modernize it, tried to bring it to this day and age, and tried to appeal the movie to the younger generation as well, which didn't grow up with the original film. Plus, this film would have promoted the original film so much again, you know. So I thought it was a good film. It wasn't brilliant, but it was a good film. You know, they did what they could. I don't think they could have done anything better with this movie. You've got to think, people. The original Beetlejuice movie, when it first came out, wasn't a massive hit. It wasn't a massive hit when it came out, but then it became a cult classic, and then it blew up, and then it became an amazing film. The same thing happens all the time with other movies and stuff. Star Trek. Do you know the original Star Trek, people, with Captain Kirk? This is just an analogy. The original Star Trek with Captain Kirk only ran for about three seasons, or maybe, yeah, something like 3 seasons in the 60s, or was it the 70s? Something like that. And it was a flop. No one wanted it. No one liked Star Trek then. It was shit. Well, it wasn't shit for me because I've watched every episode. But back then, people didn't want sci-fi. People didn't understand it. People didn't like it. Star Trek only got popular nearly 20 years later because it became a cult classic. People decided, wow, that's good, that. And then it appealed to an audience at a later date. And the first Beetlejuice film wasn't too far off something like that. So I thought it was a good film. They couldn't have done anything any better. They really couldn't. But people have to understand as well, there's a difference between you have a first film, an original film, and then you get a remake or a sequel, and usually they call them direct sequels. Now that's when normally a direct sequel is like a super shit film compared to the first one. They usually release direct sequels like 2 to 5 years later than the original film. But you've got to understand, folks, this film's come out years later. It's like 30 years later, something like that. So it isn't a direct sequel, and it's not a remake, it's a standalone. You've got to look at it as another standalone film. And if it still sucks for you, then that's fair enough. But you can't really compare it to like the original film. Not anymore, you can't. Because it's just got a couple of the same characters in it. That's about it. It's its own film, which stuck to the source material. So I thought it was a decent film. I can't exactly slag it off too much because I went into it knowing it weren't going to be as good as the original film. But it were pretty decent. You know, I'm not gonna like say, oh, this was the worst 2 hours of my life or anything like that watching this movie because like, come on, people, like. It's so far away from the original film. We're never going to live up to the standards. And they've been after doing a Beetlejuice sequel for years. It's crept up every 10 years after the original to make a sequel. They were meant to make a sequel well in the 90s. It just didn't happen. And now all of a sudden it has happened. Which is good. I'm happy. But the one thing I wouldn't like to see is I don't think they should make another sequel now. I think it's done now. Don't make a trilogy. Just leave it now. You've brought out a second film. Now it's time to let this film series kind of needs to die now. Because I think any more now would just turn it into a joke. As in, I am saying it was a good film. I'm not saying it was a brilliant film, was the Beetlejuice 2. But if they did a third one as a direct sequel, oh, it's going to flop. If I was a producer, I wouldn't put money into it. If I was a director, I probably wouldn't even take the job. But then again, Tim Burton probably would. So yeah, that's my review on like the Beetlejuice movie. Obviously, there's spoilers, so you know I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but go on, people, it doesn't matter. You probably won't even watch this anyway. Anyway, so yeah, I'd like to hear other people's opinions about this movie. Hey, maybe I'm talking shit. Who knows? But yeah, it's just some food for thought for the day, people. You know. Yeah. Awesome 50 out. Bye bye.